Hello, this is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming new moon, which will be exact on May 30th at 7:30 a.m. New York time and 12:30 p.m. London time. And this new moon aligns in 9 degrees of Gemini. And it's not only the beginning of a new moon cycle, but we're also no longer in eclipse season by then. So this is probably going to feel a little bit lighter. Now, the new moon is a good time to go within, to plant a seed for anything we would like to begin over the next 28 days. So we want to just kind of like turn inward a little bit right around the time of the new moon. And I will be mentioning the best and most potent times to set intentions for this lunar cycle towards the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. And also take advantage of the timestamps that I have added to the description part of the video in case you want to watch the video in shorter sequences or skip to a later part of the video or whatever works for you. All right, so one major thing that we have to note in this new moon chart is that we have 2 planets that are in station phases, and that means that they are exalted, they're louder. And one of those 2 planets is also the ruler of the new moon. So something is therefore in our phase in regards to the energies in connection with Mercury, which is the ruler of the new moon, and Saturn, which is the other stationing planet. And it demands our attention and our awareness. So stationing phases always are good to get more clear about what's going on, what's working, what's not working. And I will talk more about all of this below. But first, let's look at the Gemini influence of this new moon. And if you already know what Gemini is all about, feel free to skip that part. Now, Gemini is the archetype of curiosity, communication in all of its forms, and mental connections. And it represents the development of language and intelligence, as well as our ability to adapt and relate to our immediate environment that we're engaging with on a day-to-day basis. And so this can be sort of like a busy energy, vibrating busy energy, focused on collecting information. We're invited to look at our mental programming and also our conditioned mind to just see what needs to go and what new thought structures we might want to engage with. Now, since Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini, is still in its retrograde motion until June 3rd, we may need to go over thoughts and information that was collected before May 10th, which was the start of the retrograde phase, and engage with new thought structures and information after June 18th, which is once Mercury has exited its shadow phase, we can start to engage more with new stuff. Now, here are some questions you can ask yourself for this new moon. What motivates me to learn? When I talk to myself about sharing or processing information, what do I typically say to myself? And what do I say to myself about being connected to others, on a verbal level, or about my intellectual capacities? In what area of my life am I a student or a teacher? Am I sometimes both, depending on the day? So these are just some questions you kind of can engage with. And as always with the coaching questions from my videos, feel free to journal on them, meditate with them, or just sit with the question and allow sort of the answer to come to you. These questions are not there for you to it's not like a quiz where you're like, oops, I got the answer. It's more like, what's intuitively coming to you as you're posing these questions. It's more like an inquiry because you want to align yourself with the energies of this particular new moon. Now, if you want to have access to all of the new moon questions from this video in writing, so you can make better use of them with whatever practice you might have, and also the full moon video every month, feel free to check out my various levels of membership that are available on my website at astrologercoach.com. And if you're already a member, check your membership portal by signing into your account. And you will find that all my posts will be inside the My Content tab. And the new moon questions are available via the New Moon in Gemini article. by May 27th, the latest. Okay, so you can get access to all of these questions. But one thing I always say also with the questions, if you can, wait until the new moon has already become exact before working with these new moon questions, because you can work with them for 28 days. Okay, so back to the new moon chart. The spiritual goal of Gemini is the development of perception, thought, and communication. So we are invited to become aware of all the new connections that are created in the brain with each new thought or memory. And the more we think particular thoughts, the more often we repeat them, the deeper the associated pathways become. So there's sort of like the repetitiveness creates like a stronger connection to these thoughts, a stronger attachment. So ask yourself, what mental paths do I keep heading down, even though I know I don't need to go there anymore? This is a very powerful question to ask, right? And to also observe, when it comes to our own mind, observation is really crucial and really important, like being the witness of the thoughts that arise in consciousness. Because even though you might think that you are the thinker of your thoughts actually just come up automatically. So just observe what thoughts are actually arising in your awareness, in your consciousness, to see which one of those thoughts are some thoughts that you may not need to be attached to anymore. And what if I brought 5% more curiosity to my self-listening? So we often know what listening means when it comes to a conversation or a communication with another person, but we're not always so clear around what listening means when it comes to ourselves. So practicing self-listening is really powerful, especially while Mercury is still retrograde. So what if I brought 5% more curiosity to my self-listening or when I connect with others? So the new moon in Gemini sextiles a Jupiter-Mars alignment in Aries. And that's the most major aspect that the new moon is making in this new moon chart. So let's talk a little bit about the Jupiter-Mars alignment first before we address the sextile to the new moon, because that is a very important connection. Now, Mars's energy combined with Jupiter's expansiveness increases our enthusiasm, our liveliness, and our optimism. And it's a lot of masculine energy. Mars is masculine, Aries is masculine. Jupiter is just makes it bigger, makes it more expansive. So then there's more of that energy. So in Aries, this combination is really fiery. It's really like, let's go, let's do this. So this could prove a very productive and busy time, particularly when it comes to things we feel passionate about or strongly identify with. But there are also some drawbacks with this combination. So feel free to also watch my webinar on the subject if you haven't seen it yet. We look at our own birth charts in connection with those planetary movements to see how each one of us is personally impacted by this. And I have a link below this video where you can click on the link that says Jupiter in Aries until May 2023, and you can get more information there, or you can purchase that webinar. If you are not interested in watching the webinar, there's also an article about Jupiter in Aries. So if you're already a member of my online community, that article is available to you for free, the full length. If you're not yet a member, you can get the beginning of the article for free, and then the rest you would need to become a member. Now, the sextile of this alignment to the new moon gives us an opportunity to connect with others and share our individual approaches, or to teach or learn something that we feel passionate about. So what you can ask yourself here is, who might need the information that I can provide? And who might provide me with the information that I need? And what needs to be shared or communicated so I can move forward faster? Because remember, Aries is a very fast-paced energy. So is Gemini. They're both masculine in nature, so it's all about going fast. Now, our positive attitude helps us to take risks that get us unstuck if we are feeling stuck. And we have the vigor to blast through challenges. So for the next 28 days, and especially after June 3rd, once Mercury is no longer retrograde, ask yourself, what could I tackle right now that seemed impossible before? This is a great question to ask after June 3rd. Now, let's take a closer look at Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, which is currently stationing in 26 degrees of Taurus. So it's not moving very much, and still in its retrograde motion until June 3rd, like I mentioned several times already. Now, Mercury makes many aspects to other planets in this new moon chart. However, since it is still retrograde, even though also exalted, we need to continue to reorganize our thoughts and not jump the gun on anything yet. All right. Now, Mercury in its retrograde motion is associated with processing information on an internal level. And we have to remember that our nervous system is in constant communication with all of our cells and organs in our body. So the mind-body connection is facilitated by this constant communication. And something that helps with this communication is deep, slow breathing. And it really works wonders on the system. And there's many breathing techniques out there. So just simply type breathing technique into a search engine and look through what pops up or what resonates with you. And start practicing some breathing technique, because it's really helpful to get ourselves more in tune with that body-mind connection. And of course, with Mercury being in Taurus right now and so exalted, that is really what's needed. We need that mind-body connection. Now, this will be also particularly helpful since Uranus lines up with Mercury and the North Node in Taurus at the time of the new moon. So let's talk a little bit about that lineup to see what that's about. So as you can imagine, with Mercury connecting to the North Node and Uranus in Taurus, this calls on us to become much more aware of our personal physical reality. And that includes everything like our physical body, but also our physical resources. And it also asks us to wake up to the connection we have with our planet. Because remember, Taurus is very much about the physical form, whether that's our own physical form or any other physical form outside of us. And the planet, of course, is the biggest one of them. So when we learn to have a healthy relationship with our own bodies and the planet that we live on currently, clearly, we can experience more abundance, and we can use the resources that we have available to us, whether they're our own or the planet's resources. We can use them much more efficiently and effectively. Now, with Uranus involved, we could achieve really great breakthroughs in the form of ideas and communications and the mind in general. But also there might be some nervousness, impulsivity, and fidgeting. That could be also a byproduct of this alignment as well. So again, the breathing technique, deep breathing, will definitely help with that as well. Now ask yourself, what simple step could I take to be more realistically connected to my body, my finances, and my talents? And could I allow myself to be 5% less attached to one specific outcome? This is something that's important right now, because with this much energy in Taurus, there is a tendency to get attached to something that we want. So just see if you can allow yourself to be 5% less attached to one specific outcome. And then you can also ask yourself, what might become possible if I truly honored myself and my physical experience that is currently taking place on this planet, allowing myself to see my value every day, no matter what. And we also need to kind of observe, what do we have our own personal value attached to, right? Because often as adults, we tend to have an attachment between our own value and something else. As children, we don't have that so much, because as children, we just think we're valuable no matter what. But adults seem to have, switched to, anything that you got praised for as a kid, for example, or anything that society told you is something that makes you valuable, are things that we often get attached to as adults. So just investigate a little bit what that might be for you. And then ask yourself afterwards, what might become possible if I truly honored myself and my physical experience, allowing myself to see my value every day, no matter what that other attachment might be. Now, it will pay to take a practical approach, as will allowing ourselves to learn about alternative material resources or gather resources that allow us to better enjoy this physical reality. And the same is true of any flexible earning strategies. So we need to allow ourselves to think outside the box a little bit with our earning strategies. Now, where or with whom could I learn about healthy financial skills right now? Or after June 3rd, when Mercury goes direct? Unless you've already started something, then you can continue that during the Mercury retrograde. But if this is a brand new thought, then wait until June 3rd. Now, Mercury also trines Pluto in Capricorn. It sextiles Neptune in Pisces, and it squares Saturn in 25 degrees of Aquarius, which is also stationing and exalted, right? So we have that second planet that's stationing and exalted. So let's start with Mercury square to Saturn. And again, remember, they're both exalted. Now, watch out for misunderstandings or rigid thinking. Not only when it comes to interacting with others, but also when it comes to your own inner dialogue. And of course, this is particularly true while Mercury is still retrograde. And then ask yourself, what is the worst that could happen if I chose quick over quality? And what's the best possible outcome from my choosing quality over quick? And so these are just some questions to consider for the next 28 days. And how might slowing down and taking it one step at a time improve my physical enjoyment and my finances right now? And what if that simple change also strengthened my approach to improved results? So if we could get better results if we just slow down and take it one step at a time. I always say baby steps are really, really important. And of course, especially since we have that Mars-Jupiter conjunction in Aries, which has such strong masculine energies towards moving fast. And then we have, on the other hand, that Saturn-Mercury square. So we want to make sure that we're really not shooting over the limits too fast right now. So as best as you can, find creative ways to connect to your personal values while staying committed to a realistic vision for humanity or for yourself, for your future, right? So Saturn's retrograde phase starts on June 4th, the day after Mercury goes direct. And it's inviting us to take a closer look at our current long-term commitments and also our limitations in connection with our communities and affiliations. And we are being asked to start restructuring anything that has slipped out of alignment with who we have become over the last 6 months or so. So remember, this is after June 4th. Now, Saturn will move slower. It will be in its stationing phase already before and still after the time it goes retrograde. So the station phase will last until June 19th. And that shows us that just makes it more conscious for us, or it's just more in our face, what works in our current physical reality and what doesn't. And where we need to have better boundaries and be more realistic about our own and other people's limitations. And this is really key because everyone has limitations, right? We have limitations as a society. We have limitations as individuals. You know, nobody is exempt from having limitations, just part of being human and having the human experience. But often we get angry with ourselves or with other people when limitations show up. And rather than getting angry, you know, just know that that's normal, that everyone has it. And the more we fight our own limitations or other people's limitations, the more upset we get. And the more upset we get, what do we have? I mean, it's not we can't go anywhere up with that, right? We can't go into a higher vibration with that. Now, taking this one at a time. So better boundaries, more realistic about our own limitations, and to see what works, what doesn't work in our physical reality. Ask yourself, what is demanding my attention regarding all of this? What am I aware of? What's demanding my attention? Because remember, the station phase is just there to grab your attention. You're not supposed to do anything with it yet. You just notice it. Now, Mercury's trine to Pluto supports us in feeling empowered by what we say and how we say it. And we're strongly connected to our inner truth, and we can analyze and discern our deeper motivations towards long-term goals. So we're also being invited to focus on what we actually have control over and surrender any fears about the outside world and its structures, its rules or its regulations, and all those things that we don't have control over. So it's really important to remember, and I know I say this a lot, but it's so important to remember that if you focus on the things that you have no control over, you lose and everyone else loses too. Because if your vibration goes down, the collective vibration goes down as well, right? We're all interconnected. So we have to remember, if we can focus on the things that we actually have control over, our vibration goes up, the collective vibration goes up. Right? So that's part of just understanding how intertwined everything is, and not to beat yourself up in any way or, you know, feel too much pressure because of that, but to just understand how energy works. So ask yourself, what fears, unhelpful behaviors, or destructive patterns have been holding me back from truly seeing my value and the physical beauty of life all around me? And, you know, it's easy to lose track of our own value and the physical beauty all around us when we are focusing on things that put us into a fearful place, when we're encouraging behaviors or patterns that lower our vibration. So we want to really be conscious of that and aware and see, again, not to punish yourself, not to judge yourself, but to simply notice. Again, it comes back down to this observer position, this witnessing of, you know, what's useful and what's not useful, or what works and what doesn't work. Now, where does the information I currently receive come from? And does it empower me or create more fear and anxiety with me or in my environment? And this is a very, very important question right there, because you have control over this. You have control over the information that you look at, that you take in. You have control over whether you want this to be something that empowers you or disempowers you. You know, you have control over what you want to focus on. So really, really take this seriously. Now, if my body had a say in this, your physical body, right? If you're tuned in with your physical body and your body had a say in this and had its own voice to speak with, what might it be saying to me about what's empowering or what's disempowering to me in terms of where the information comes from and what type of information I'm listening to. So really allow yourself to listen to your body as well, because your body is intelligent. Every cell in your body is intelligent. Now, how might I find greater ways to empower myself and others? What might that look like? And again, it doesn't have to be anything huge. It could be small baby steps. And what would it look like if I were more truthful and authentic in my connection with others and with myself? Sometimes we even try to hide things from ourselves because we're not comfortable with certain things. So we push them down, or we go ignore, or, we do things that distract us, whether that's, watching TV or taking drugs or drinking alcohol, or sex or whatever it might be. There's a lot of things in the world that can be distractions. But these distractions take us away from actually having an authentic connection with ourselves. So just to see, are you doing that? Are you capable of actually connecting to yourself in a truthful and authentic way? And how could my honoring myself and my talents and my practical decision-making abilities help me manifest my long-term goals? So just remember Taurus, Capricorn, right? That combination. It's very practical. It's very much about really being clear about what's honoring of the physical, yourself, your talents, your body and all that stuff. Now, Mercury's last aspect is the sextile to Neptune. And so this gives us the opportunity to connect to our higher selves, to our divine selves. And so any artistic or spiritual endeavors are likely to do well for the next 4 weeks. Music might help us with our thinking process and ability to get things done. And also to let ourselves be inspired. Neptune is about inspiration. It's about something much bigger than ourselves. And sometimes, something physical like a book or something like a song or a movie, someone else's words, they can really inspire us. And so we want that kind of stuff when we hear it and feel it. We want to allow the universe to really speak to us through those things and open our mind to that higher vibrational energy. So ask yourself, how might meditation or mindfulness, right? Mindfulness being just being very present with whatever we are doing or thinking or saying or how we're interacting, being mindful, or simply being present in the now moment to all the energies inside of me and around me, how might that support my enjoyment of life? How could that support my physical reality, my physical enjoyment of life? And what might merging my 5 senses with my 6th sense look like, right? So 5 senses and then 6th sense. What might that look like? And, feel free if this is something that sounds like Chinese to you, where you're like, I don't know what that could look like. Maybe read up on some of this stuff, get curious, be interested in hearing more about it, or connect, with people that are already good at this and let them show you, let them contribute to teaching you something. Now, we will talk about Neptune in Pisces, its station and retrograde phases in our next forecasting forum on June 18th. Neptune represents our connection to the divine and our intuitive knowing. And the station phase will bring Neptune's energy more into our awareness from June 15th until July 12th. So if you want to align yourself with the upcoming exalted Neptune energies, join me live or sign up for the MP4 video presentation of this webinar. There's a link to register below this video if that's of interest. And some questions that are connected to this strong Neptune would be, where in my life have I become too disconnected from life, from love, from my inner god or goddesses? And what is my connection to the spiritual realm? And what about the heart realm? Because the heart is the place where spirit talks to us, right? Where the higher self connects to us. Now, another aspect that I want to mention here, which is sort of like a little bit of a sidebar, because I usually don't talk about asteroids, but this seems important, and so I wanted to put it into this video. Mars in Aries and Ceres in Cancer make a square to each other in this new moon chart. And so Ceres is the largest and first, the asteroid that was first discovered of all the asteroids, is the largest asteroid between the orbit of Mars and Jupiter. So it orbits right in between. And so that's why it's also important that it's squaring Mars, because they're sort of like, they are neighbors in a sense. And this asteroid was named for the ancient Greek goddess of the harvest. And in astrology, she represents the evolutionary call for an equal co-creative partnership with humankind and the natural world. She's also concerned with the environment and with nutrition. So Ceres in Cancer actually feels very comfortable there, because Cancer also cares very much about nurturement and things like that. So this square between Mars and Ceres asks us to re-examine our relationship between our desire for complete independence as individuals or as our human persona, and our need for emotional safety and connections to whatever is most nurturing at home, within our biological or chosen families, and in our natural environment. So ask yourself, what truly nurtures me? And how much time do I spend in nature? How much time do I spend with my family, whether that's biological family or chosen family? And what does my persona get excited about, my human persona? And how much time do I spend on things I feel passionate about, truly passionate about, right? Where your heart just starts to go, yeah, where it just starts to race and your eyes start to pop out. How much time do I spend on things I feel truly passionate about? And could I make time for both? Is it something I could make time for both of those things? So just something to contemplate again over the next 28 days after the new moon becomes exact. And then to sum it all up for this new moon, the next 28 days highlight the power of information and the preciousness of our awareness around this. And the new moon urges us to be very selective about our media choices and extra mindful of how we communicate with others and with ourselves. So our inner dialogue, right? Especially while Mercury is still retrograde until June 3rd. We're also asked to adapt to new circumstances through our curiosity and exposure to a wide variety of ideas, people, and experiences. We learn that there are many angles, that there are many filters, that there are many ways of looking at things. That's the gift of Gemini. It just sort of like knows how to do that. And Gemini represents sort of like the interplay of duality and the challenge of incorporating unintegrated aspects of ourselves. So ask yourself, how might the observation of my thoughts and my human persona and everything that comes with it, like conditioning, trauma, triggers, limitations, etc. This is all connected to our human persona. How might the observation of my thoughts and my human persona support me in integrating different parts of myself? So I remember we're talking about that witness, we're talking about that just observing what's arising in consciousness. And how might I assimilate mind and emotions or feelings? How might I assimilate spirit and matter? So we really want to see how we can connect the dots. So as best as you can, remain curious, open-minded, and adaptable for the next 28 days. Really trust yourself, trust your heart to know the way, and allow the mind to become a neutral observer as much as possible. And also ask yourself, am I just my mind, or am I more than my mind? And if I'm more than just my mind, what is beyond the mind? And really investigate that, like really play with that, because great place to do that is when you're meditating, to really explore what's beyond thinking, beyond thoughts, right? Beyond the mind. And then also, what might I discover if I stay open to being inspired by life rather than focusing on all the bad news or the bad stuff or the denser vibrational thoughts that move through awareness, that move through consciousness. Now, might a 10-minute meditation or a mantra or prayer practice help make me more aware of my relationship to my thoughts and what arises in consciousness on an ongoing basis? Is that something that might be possible? We need to experiment. So just experiment with that. And how might laughter, singing, or humming support my body, mind, heart connection? What about yoga, acupuncture, or craniosacral therapy? There's so many other therapies out there. So this is just a couple of things that I'm mentioning. But what role could those things play in having a healthy body-mind relationship? So just some things to explore for this new moon. Now, if you have an ascendant, career point, or personal planets in 7 to 11 degrees of Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, or Pisces, then this new moon is going to impact you stronger than other people. But even if you don't have points or planets in those signs and degrees, take a look at your natal chart and see where does 9 degrees of Gemini land in your birth chart. And just know that wherever that lands, that house placement is going to be the place that for the next 4 weeks is going to be most impacted by this new moon. And this is also the place where you're most ready for learning something or teaching something or just engaging, your mind in a more conscious way over the next 4 weeks. Now, you can also check out my 30-minute class on how to read your birth chart. You can get free access to that via my homepage at astrologercoach.com. Just scroll down on the homepage where it says free class and click on that, and you can access it from there. Now, let's talk about new moon intentions for this month. The new moon is also the best time to set some intentions for this month's moon cycle. And this process is especially powerful with when it's done after the new moon becomes exact for the first 48 hours. Definitely not during a moon void, of course. So this month we have 2 opportune time frames for setting intentions. Anytime between 7:30 a.m. on May 30th and 4:10 p.m. on May 31st, which is the next day. And then again, because there will be a moon void, of course, at that point. Then again from 1:49 a.m. until 7:30 a.m. on June 1st. So that second time frame is much shorter and very early in the morning. Unless you live in Europe, it might work for you, or further in that direction, further east. So all of those times that I just gave were Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So it's the New York time zone in America. And if you live in a time zone other than US East Coast time, I recommend that you join my Facebook fan page or follow me on Twitter. I will be posting reminders on May 30th throughout the day, on May 31st until the late afternoon, and on June 1st in the early morning. So when you see those reminders, then okay, now it's time for me to set my intentions. Now, because we are also coming out of eclipse season with this new moon, or the eclipse season is no longer active, we can also start to take actions on some of the intentions that we set after the solar eclipse became exact, right? So anything that you set in the beginning of May, any intentions, you can now take actions on those. Or you can also, wait until Mercury goes direct again to start take actions on those, depending on, what these intentions are. All right. So yeah, if you want to know more about setting intentions, go to my website, to my blog page, and then look for astrology articles or the tag new moon intentions on the right-hand side of the blog page from your computer. I will also have a link below this video. If you're looking at my website from your phone, it might be easier to click on the link below this video. And if you want to sign up for my free monthly newsletter, that's an option as well via my homepage at astrologercoach.com. Or you can also just email me at info@astrologercoach.com and write newsletter in the subject line. The newsletter is just something I send out once or twice a month with special offers, videos, announcements of some sort. So that's what you get when you sign up for the newsletter. Now, if you have any general questions about this particular new moon, feel free to email me at info@astrologercoach.com. If you have any personal questions that require me to pull up your birth chart, then please book a reading with either me or Leah at astrologercoach.com. Leah is a former student of mine who's become a certified soul-based astrologer. And so she's very qualified to do readings as much as I am. So feel free to just check and see what both of us offer on my website to reach out if that's something you'd like to engage in. And any other questions that are connected to what's coming up with the next 30 to 40 days, join the next monthly forecasting forum on June 18th. Again, we will focus on the upcoming exalted Neptune energies from June 15 to July 12th. And there's an early bird special that will be available until June 15 at midnight Eastern time. And once you're registered, you can ask a question in advance by June 17th at midnight. Just email me, or you can also ask questions during the webinar as well. Now, my members will see me in 2 weeks around the time of the full moon, so we can look at how far we've come since setting new moon intentions. And everyone else, I'll be back in about 4 weeks from now with the next new moon video. All right, so stay focused on your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And much love to all of you. And I am astrologer coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.